we get more out of what we have? How do we leverage our biggest asset, which is our people? And what they're seeing is this brain drain, right? This exhaustion and kind of burnout that we're seeing in a lot of organizations. And the CHROs and the HR organizations are trying to figure out, how do we engage people again? They're physically coming here, or they're hybrid, right? They're showing up in meetings, we're doing the work, but are we mentally engaging them? Are they feeling connected to the work? Are they feeling energized by it? Because productivity stats will tell us that when someone feels passionate or really energized by the work, we're going to get more out of them, right? They're going to give us more productivity. So my guess is they're seeing a lot of the stats that we're seeing, that productivity is down. And it really doesn't have to do with whether they're home or at the office. It's the engagement and the excitement about the work and the work environment, how engaged they are in the actual work and how they're being led, right, through the challenges and through the work and the problems that they're having to solve from a business standpoint. This is where we're not necessarily looking at the root when we're trying to diagnose this. We hear a lot of companies are still talking about hybrid versus in the office. That's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is leadership. And are our leaders do they have time, in all fairness to them, but have we taught them how to fully engage, how to challenge people in a productive way, how to really understand the strengths of their people and know if there's more, they could be challenging them and turning on their brains in a different way. We've got a lot of people that are showing up but aren't fully immersed, aren't fully using what they're capable of. And so I think the root is leadership. And how is leadership showing up for these people? And as organizations, we've got to do two things better. We've got to provide leaders the time to actually lead and do this work, which produces business results. And the second thing is we have to teach them how to do it. We've thrown a lot of leaders across all companies and all industries into leadership roles, woefully unprepared for what it actually means to be a leader. And so we've got to redefine those competencies and what we're asking of leaders going into this new environment. Part of it is retention, but part of it also is the generational shifts and what employees are expecting from companies, from leaders, from executive teams. And so we've got to get real with that pretty quickly in order to fully maximize our greatest asset. We get this question a lot from leaders. I know I'm supposed to be spending time on this, on my people and creatively and challenging them, but I'm buried right under the pile of expectations and things that I have to accomplish. And so our biggest piece of advice is there's no perfect answer here, but it's redeploying your time. The time you spend with your team, it's not adding on top of the pile of all the work you already have to do. It's using that time differently. In a team meeting, let's stop having the same meetings and talking about status updates, and let's throw some different questions in there about how we solve a problem and get some creative juices flowing. Let's ask different questions in our meetings. Let's have a different agenda for our one-on-ones with our employees that's focused on where do they need to be challenged? Where are they struggling right now, either emotionally or mentally, physically, like really starting to get into some of those pieces of the relationship so that people feel the empathy. It's a huge trend for culture as we go, it has been, and as we go into 2024, companies and employees wanting to stay are looking for companies and leaders who are empathic, right? Who really understand and care about them as humans. We're seeing the stats on they're more creative when we do that, when we make them feel that way. They feel more invested, even when they're working through problems. And so I think it's leaders really carving out different space for different questions and different conversations to try to create a different kind of relationship with employees. I think one of the easiest ones is just asking them a negative and a positive emotion they're feeling right now. Forcing them to give you both actually forces them to think about something that they feel positive about right now, which is uplifting, and something they're struggling with, versus just asking them how they're doing. They're not going to necessarily come up with that. So you have to give them that positive, that duality of the positive and negative. I think asking that question. We have our basic human needs assessment where we really encourage leaders to just be having those conversations around certainty and significance and growth, right? And rating that. So asking them questions about that. Simple question about what's one thing I can do to make your life easier as your leader. It can be something very simple, or it could be something very profound in the support they're not receiving. I think also assessing where each of your people is at and how much time you're spending with them and how much you're challenging them. We have a great matrix that we talk about called the Invite Challenge Matrix that helps leaders really plot their people, because each one of your people is going to be in a different place. If they're newer to the organization, if they're newer to their role, how much support are you giving them? And so it's just really taking the time to assess what each person needs and giving them that individualized plan. I think a lot of the boilerplate communications, whether it's their branding and marketing, where it's not inspiring. We talk a lot about the soul of the company is what people are attracted to. And there are a lot of companies operating that are making money and are growing, but are soulless to their employees, at least. There's nothing the employees are proud of. And I think part of that is the restlessness, is I can come in and do the work that I'm paid to do, but do I feel inspired about the kind of work as a business that we are doing, the kinds of problems we're solving, the kinds of impact that we're having in the world? And all organizations have that. We've had these conversations with manufacturing firms and construction firms that they thought their goal and their authenticity, their brand, was to make money and to build buildings. Their employees see something deeper than that. And I think the companies that are really diving into that and having really good conversations in their organizations are pulling their employees in closer, a greater sense of belonging. The ones that are just doing the normal day-to-day business are the ones who are creating restlessness, the ones who are creating kind of an atrophication of their employees. They're not feeling as tied to the whole, which is this whole sense of belonging. And when that happens, employees are coming in and doing the work, but they're not coming in and feeling connected to the whole. And I think that's the biggest long-term risk that most organizations are facing. The stats you're seeing is the average employee gives you 40% of what they're capable of. And when I say that to leaders, I often get they're coming in and they're lazy, or it's not the truth. They don't even know they're capable of the other 60%. That's our job as organizations, as leaders, is to find the strengths that they haven't maximized yet for the benefit of our business and for the benefit of the employee, for them to grow and evolve. And so I think that's the shift that we're now making in terms of authenticity and connection, is that it's good for business to maximize the productivity of our people.